Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today we are using a brand new stamp set from Concord 9th. This is the Grateful for Everything. It has a beautiful fall bouquet in it, and this thing is big. It's like 7 inches. But it has this super cool little element to it. Concord 9th always has super cool elements to their sets. But anyway, so basically it has like a background you can stamp with it. And I'm going to be using that today. So I am using soft navy ink from Simon Says Stamp, and how this works to make them cohesive and everything line up is you stamp one side of the background first. Now, I'm going to tell you, I got a little bit nervous because I wasn't paying attention to the fact that there's a lot of negative space, and I completely covered the right-hand corner where it's negative. And I was like, ooh, is this going to leave a mark on my page? And I just didn't like give it CPR pressure. I just gave it regular pressure and I had no issues. So, and I even stamped it twice because in the bottom right-hand side, as we're looking at it now, it was a little bit splotchy. So I just stamped it a second time. And then now you take the floral bouquet portion of it and then you line that up. This is way easier with a stamp positioner, FYI, but you can totally do it with a block. You just have to have a mighty big acrylic block, which I think I do have one that this would fit on. It's from, oh, why can't I think of her name? She went to prison. Martha Stewart. Oh, that's terrible. I shouldn't even remember that she went to prison because it was so long ago. You know, we all got to let that stuff go. Everybody makes mistakes, but that's how I remember her. Also, she's really good friends with Snoop Doggy Dogg. Did you know that? That's not even his name anymore. Snoop Lion? Did he change it to Snoop Lion? I think he changed it to Snoop Lion. Anyway, moving on. So you stamp down the flower portion of this, and then I stamped mine so it's hanging off the side, but then you stamp down the next portion of the background. You line that up and then stamp it that way so everything is all lined up and looks, you know, like it's a continuation. It was actually really easy to do, and I stamped each one of these twice. I also stamped my flowers in the same soft navy ink. Simon Says Stamp inks are alcohol based, so they do, when you color over them with Copics, you may get some bleeding. I didn't really notice anything that was too terrible, and I even used yellows, but that's just something to keep in mind when you're doing it. It didn't bother me any. So there, that's the whole thing stamped out. And then I'm going to move on to, no, I'm lying. So, you know, I never start over again. See this little up here in the top left-hand corner? I got ink on my thumb and then I put it on my card because that's how I roll. I'm a messy card maker. I'm a messy everything, really. Let's be honest. We can be honest among friends, right? So I'm going to fix it because I'm not starting over. I'm not doing this again. So basically, I just took a little bit of alcohol because I told you they're alcohol-based. I just whacked my computer. Did you hear it? I'm sorry. Anyway, and used a just the corner of the ink pad on the same acrylic block, mixed them together, and I wanted it to be a little bit more liquid so I could do spatters. So I just added a little bit more alcohol. I'm going to tell you this will lighten up your color a little bit. It's not going to be a perfect match. However, it is going to be close enough for government work, and it covered up my little side thumbprint there, and this is already the design of it. Isn't exactly clean lines, so it worked really well to kind of cover that up and give it a more artistic look. I had originally intended on doing some gold splatters in the background, but this is going to work for me, so I'm going to be happy that I could fix my boo-boo and move on to the next. And of course, if you have been here before, you know the next is Copic coloring. So this is a fall bouquet. It is what it is. And even though it is August, we are gearing up for fall. All of the like Halloween things, fall, pumpkin spice, everything, everywhere, all over the place, I don't understand, is in the stores. And so this makes sense for this time of year. It just kind of makes me a little bit sad to be using more jewel tones. So I kept them pretty bright, even though I went with a more autumn color scheme. So what I'm doing first is I'm going in with my lightest color, which in this case is an RV55, and I'm just mapping out where all of my shadows are going to be. So I know in the center of this, I think it's a peony. That's my guess. in the center of this peony, the way that those petals are curling up, I know all of that's going to be dark. I know it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill it in. There's no reason to kid myself about having any highlights in there. It ain't going to happen. And then I'm also adding just a little bit of shading, just one little line on either side of the lines that are drawn in the petals that are curling over. You want to make sure you're conscientious about how big that line is when you add it in, because it really should only be to one side or the other. You don't want them to be one big, like, thick line, because it's showing how one part of the petal is kind of tucked under the other. And then anywhere that there are petals that are actually fanned out, I'm using the same flicking motion that I normally do, just a very light hand on the tip of the marker. I will be doing flicking for most of the other things as we move through this flower. So this is another long video. I literally cannot stop myself with the Copic coloring. I can't do anything quick and then just walk away. I don't know how. While I'm doing this, and I sincerely hope you cannot hear it, my neighbors are cutting their grass. And I can't even be mad about it because I just screamed at the top of my lungs like a straight psychopath at my dog in the backyard because she was, my neighbors have a dog, and she was trying to run over to the other dog, and I know the other dog is not dog friendly. So I screamed at the top of my lungs like a absolute wild person. Like, I swear I'm a nice person. Neighbors, I'm sorry. I was just trying to avoid a situation. However, I have another situation, which I'm sure some of you are going to be like, why don't you just put her on a leash, Kelly, or get a fence, or whatever. All valid points. All of those are valid points. However, this is probably the number one thing that I do not like about the house that I have moved into, which is a rental. That's where we're at, so I'm not going to pay to put a fence up, is my dog, her name is Molly, has always been used to having her own yard that was fenced in, that she could just run free. And now she can't. She hates the lead. She will not go to the bathroom on the lead. And I feel bad that she can't run around. So when I can, I let her kind of run in the backyard and I stand there. She listens pretty well. And even when I screamed like a psychopath, it was actually the first words that came out of my mouth. So it's not like I was yelling at her and she wasn't listening. She listens really good. But there are leash laws and I'm breaking them because I feel bad for my dog. So that's that. Speaking of dogs, earlier today, so Peanut and I get up, we're going to get ready to go to church. There's actually a church that's just right down the street from me, but we were going to try a different one that's closer to my job that I have been to before and knew that I liked. So that was the game plan. I let Molly out this morning, and she comes back in the house, and Peanut says to me, something smells really bad. And I was like, it does. And I walk in the family room and I was like, it does. And he looks at me and he's like, I think Molly rolled in poop. Accurate. That was accurate. All down her side, there was poo. So good morning to us. So my dog weighs about, 70 pounds-ish. And I weigh about $130. So she is almost, she's over half my weight. And so trying to wrangle a dog who doesn't like water into a bathtub when they're more than half your weight while not getting poop on yourself is basically a heroic feat. I did manage to get it done, but then once I got her in there, and now like Peanut the whole time is like, oh, I want to play with the water, I want to play with the hose, I want to play with this, I want to play with that, and I'm like, oh, can you just please, can you help your poor mother out? And I don't know where the dog shampoo is. Nope, I don't know where it is. Probably in the garage, because that's helpful when you need to wash a dog, have it all the way in the garage there like that. So Molly got washed with, her hair should be very voluminous because it was Body Envy by Herbal Essence. That's what I had going on. Yeah, so that happened this morning. And then we ended up, instead of going to the church I originally was going to go back to, I went to the church down the street and actually really liked it. And so did Peanut. And so I'm super excited about that because maybe we found something that will work for us and it's close to home. So in the winter, I don't have to drive in the snow because I hate that too. So yeah, that's been my day so far. I hope you're having a good Sunday. I just about halfway through coloring up this flower that I haven't even talked about really at all. So hope you weren't coming here to learn anything. I'm all the way out to the darkest color. When you saw me do the darkest color, I only really put it into the darkest areas. That's something that I learned from Kathy Rakusin. She calls it the little nooks and crannies. But really putting that the darker color in those tiny areas, even if you only just do a little bit, really, really does make a huge difference in the dimension and the depth that you can get in your coloring. Another thing that you need to be careful about with this type of flower, because you don't have a lot of real estate. Let's be real, folks. Those petals are not very big. There's a lot of them, a lot of petals, but not very big. So one of the things you need to be careful about is creating that quote unquote wall of color. And you can see here, I'm starting to do it, where all of my flicks are the same length, the same thickness, and that can create a very unnatural look. And if you're trying to get something a little bit more realistic, that is not going, that's not going to be your friend. So just try to vary those lengths and vary those thicknesses. I also struggle with it, as you can see here, especially the petal at the very bottom here. My hand's covering it right now, my apologies. And then for the lightest color, I'm going to take it all the way up, but I'm going to take it all the way up in the flicks so that there is just a little bit of, kind of white that shows through as more of a natural highlight. I love this color combination, especially for fall. I am a pink fan, even though blue is my boyfriend. Pink and I are still friends. And I just think it's a very striking magenta combination, and this is the RV 55, 66, 69, and 99. So it gives a lot of really nice depth. Originally, I was not going to color the big flower pink. I don't know really honestly how this happened. I was probably talking. I talk on the phone a lot when I'm coloring, and I was probably chatting with someone, and I did not pay any attention to what I was picking up. Originally, the game plan was to make it orange because I thought that would be that would play nicely as a complementary color off the navy blue. And so, but somehow I picked up the pink. In the center, this is the only part where I noticed that ink giving me a little bit of a problem. And I think it's because I really scrubbed that yellow on. But ultimately, I mean, it just looks like a yellow-green, which a center of a peony sometimes is, so is not that strange or bizarre. The other thing that I wanted to do, and we're talking a little bit about color theory here, I wanted to kind of switch up the color a little bit. Because I do have this navy going on. I'm going to have some oranges and some yellows. It's more of that autumn theme. And so in order to switch up the color, and you could do this, like say you had a bouquet of peonies and you wanted to have them similar colors, but not all exactly the same. This is a great kind of trick to do that. I picked a orange. It is a YR, but it's definitely a lighter one. And I'm just adding it to the base of the petals, which is going to give it a different look than what it just had with only the pink. I only recommend doing this with colors that are complementary. If you're just looking to add some colors, you can, did I say colors that are, yes, but that's not what I mean. Complementary colors like orange and blue, those are complementary. I meant colors that work well together, which is also another definition of complementary. Disregard this whole last 30 seconds of conversation here, people. Okay. I mean colors that play nice. So what are those called? Tertiary colors? I think so. The ones on the other side of them. I clearly did not go to art school. I have a criminal justice degree. So just work with me here, folks. Anywho, you want colors that will play nice with each other. So with a pink, you could do a purple, a blue, an orange, even a yellow. But if you go in there with like a green, you're going to create shadows, which is totally fine. That's a great way to do that. A lot of times with reds, If you go in with a green, you can get really nice shadows because they do create that darker brown color. For the rest of the little buds on here, I'm going to do, obviously I'm doing this one orange as we're talking, and then I'm going to do the other one, the same yellow combination that I showed you for the center of the flower. I'm just not going to show you the coloring of the yellow one because I did it the same way. And it's still so long because I Copic colored this entire bouquet. So, and I know Copic coloring isn't for everybody. Some of you who watch do colored pencils. Some of you do zigs. Some of you do straight watercolor. But all of these things that I'm talking about can be applied to those other mediums. You can definitely do the color mixing the same way. So once I'm done with that, then we're going to do, I kind of had to split up the leaves a little bit. Again, because we're working on this time crunch. It's still, a 20+ minute video. But anyway, what was I going to, so on to story number 2. Story number 2 from the beach house situation. So the first night I told you, like, basically my sinuses were completely crazy. We went to my Florida mom's house, which is Dawn's mom, which is Florida mom's house, hung out, sat by the pool, and I was like, we went and ate, and then I was like, we're going to have to go nap. I need the nap because my allergies were crazy. Back to this card for 1 second. So in this bouquet, there is a maple leaf or an oak leaf. I'm not a botanist. I'm not exactly sure which one. It's a leaf, folks. And I wanted to kind of do some color blending because I thought that would work nicely with the 2 buds that I had. So I started with my 2 lightest colors, and the 2 lightest colors that I have is a Y02 and a YR15. Now, if you've watched previous videos, you know you're only paying attention to that last color when you're mixing. But there are exceptions. So you wouldn't necessarily think that a 5 would blend into a 2. But because the yellows, like if you put down a Y02 and a Y04, you're not going to see much of a difference. I use them interchangeably all the time because the yellows are so bright. They all just, they look so similar. And that's why when you see me shading, I have to go into the YRs to get really any kind of shadow. So I just started with the lightest color. I added the same shading that I would normally. Sometimes that can be a little bit difficult when you're trying to get the colors to blend. But I have found that if I do minimal shading, like I don't bring it all the way out, so I'm just doing the shading really closest to the peony and then letting the rest of it kind of be a little bit lighter, I found that I can get a better blend that way. Also, don't be afraid to keep blending it. Copics blend in the fiber of your paper, so you can keep going over it a couple of times until you're happy with it, which is what I'm going to do here. I wasn't happy with how much yellow I had. I wanted a little bit more orange, so I just added it back in and then went over the yellow again. For the leaves, picked some yellow greens and some blue greens, and I'm just going to very quickly add some shading from not only the base but also the tip, and then we'll talk about the teal ones when we get there. So anyway, day 1 we went, I already told you about that in the last video. If you have not heard that story and you want to, go one back. I think it says girls trip story 1. So then day 2, we get up, check out of the hotel. Dawn comes and gets us. We went to Target. Basically, the 3 of us cannot go shopping together because everybody wanted what everybody else had. There was such a cute little racerback tank that, what is it? It's called Knox Rose, I think is the new line that Target's carrying. That's totally adorable. Anyway, it's like this olive green racerback tank with like this lace neckline, and I totally loved it. And Dawn saw it before me, which was a huge bummer. But then I got this like gray and white beach cover up, and they were both like, come on now, I really want that. And I was like, no, I'm buying it. I'm getting one thing that I want, which I'm kidding. I got way more than one thing. It was a true Target trip, where you can't just go in there for toothpaste and leave, with just toothpaste. You go in there and you buy, $100 worth of things and you leave with no toothpaste. That's how Target works, I think. So we went to the Target, and then we went to Dunkin' Donuts, for real, because you know Mama need her some coffee to survive life. And then we went to the nail salon. So when we went to the nail salon, Dawn actually talked me into trying dip nails, which I had never tried before. That's what you see in this video here. And it was very interesting. So basically, the gist of it is they paint on this like base, and they do file them, just FYI on that. So if you're worried about your natural nail, which I'm going to be honest, I'm a little scared to take them off because I don't know what's going to be lying underneath. I will definitely keep you updated on that. But I wanted an ombre French manicure with glitter, because you know I need me some glitter. That's a given. But anyway, so instead of traditionally they paint the base coat, then they dip it into the little pot, brush off the extra, paint on the next layer of like bonder, dip it again. With mine, because I wanted the ombre, they actually ended up like dipping a brush into the powder and then holding it above my nail and tapping it over, then painting the next layer and doing that repeatedly. So I do think mine are thicker than most dip nails would be, because Dawn got dip nails as well. How many times do you think I can say dip nails? Anyway, Dawn got a solid color and hers did not look as thick as mine. But so far they're holding up really well. I haven't had any breakage or anything like that. So I will be sure to let you know once I take them off what the damage looks like. It'll probably still be another week. So that's where we're at. For the background, I didn't even talk to you about them teal leaves. Puh, Lord of mercy. Didn't happen. You saw it though. So I hope you were paying attention. For like the accessories in the background, it looks like wheat. I just used a YR24 and colored that in. I also used a white gel pen to add in some highlights. This, there's the dies. I told you I used the dies as well. There is a die for the whole floral bouquet, which I think would be beautiful for like, name tags at Thanksgiving, you know, like the little, placeholders and stuff like that. That would be amazing. But anyway, one of the things in there is a sentiment, and it says grateful for you. This is what you're seeing here. I wanted to stack them up because it is a very intricate die, and I wanted to make sure it would be able to hold its own. So I stacked 3 of the white ones together. Originally, which is how I typically do my die cuts, I would put the glue on the bottom and then put the next piece on top. I found for this, it worked better for me to put the glue on the top piece and then lay it on top of the cardstock that I was already building up. I don't like finicky things. You guys know this. So this part was a little bit of a challenge for me, but eventually I got it done. I'm going to use, and I'm not even going to show it to you because my head is in the way the entire time because I was so focused on what I was doing. So my apologies. This is not a good YouTube tutorial for this part of it. Anyway, I used it as like a mat so that I would know that it was going in the way that it was intended. I also really wanted to have the sentiment be glittered, but that's very hard to photograph. So what I ended up doing is using Stardust stickles and just covering the sentiment with that, which worked a little bit better for me. I also added on some gold sequins as an accent, and then that is the whole card. So this is part of the new Concord 9th release for August of 2018. If you haven't checked it out, please do. It's super cute. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.